So you're walking home with your friend and all of a sudden you're sucked through a magical portal to another world. What do? You just kick and you scream and you say, "Send me home!" Hello everybody and welcome to my review of volume number 1 of Gamei Hitsuji's light novel series, The Magic in This Other World is Too Far Behind. This one is published in English by J Novel Club. If you'd like to pick up your own copy, I do have a link to Amazon in the description down below. There are currently 8 volumes of this series published in Japan. I'm kind of not sure if this series is done, or if it's just maybe on a bit of a longer hiatus, because the last volume came out in August of 2017, which is a little bit of an longer than average gap between volumes, but I haven't heard anything about it being over, so my guess is more is coming soon. So this book is told in the third person, mostly from 2 points of view, those being the main character, Suime, and at least in this volume, the main female character, Felmania. So basically the story is that, just like I said, Suime is walking home with his friend Reiji. Reiji is a good guy, such a good guy, wants to help people, and they get dragged through a portal along with their female friend Mitsuki. Well, they arrive in this other world that is being tormented, shockingly, by a demon lord. And it turns out that Reiji is the chosen hero, and that Mitsuki and Suime just kind of got dragged along for the ride by accident. Now, of course, this being a summoned to another world to be a hero kind of story, Reiji is given some pretty awesome powers. He's so much stronger than the average human being. He is able to use magic in a fairly powerful way. Actually, even Mitsuki is given a bit of magic. Suime, on the other hand, is kind of like, you know what? Screw you guys. I don't owe you jack. I'm out. Send me home. Problem is, nobody knows how to do it, because the magic in this world is just too far behind. The magic that they've used to summon them is like an old ancient magic that they don't really even understand themselves. They don't think they can send them home. So, of course, Sume is pretty pissed. But what's interesting is that we discover that even though these characters have been taken from our modern world, from modern day Japan, turns out magic is actually alive and well in our world, even though it is very, very well hidden. And Suime happens to be a magician. A fairly, by our standards, he says he is a maybe slightly above average one. By their standards, he's ridiculously OP. You're probably not too surprised. I mean, the magic in this world is too far behind. In any case, this first volume is really a big setup volume. Of course, it is the setup of bringing our characters to this other world, a setup and sort of starting to introduce us to the ideas of how magic in our world is different from the magic in this world. There's a little bit of mystery and a little bit of setup about, Suime being kind of discredited, Felmania kind of being discredited. There's a figure sort of in the shadows trying to stir up some problems. And basically it comes down to Felmania and Suime to, kind of sort things out. All the while, Suime trying to hide the fact that he's a magician from his friends. Now, here's the thing about this book. There is some really good, promising things in this book. And there are things that I like about this book. And then there was one thing that I couldn't get over, man. It kind of bothered me, so bear with me. Let's start with some of the good stuff first. First of all, what I like about this book is that the multidimensionality of it. And when I say that, I mean that other than, say, Reiji and Mitsuki, who, funny enough, are there to fill in the really prototypical vanilla hero roles, and they aren't even in the book that much, Suime, on the other hand, is a character with multiple faces and masks that he wears. He is the somewhat aloof friend who knows nothing of magic and really isn't that, physical or what have you. I mean, he's just an average kid. That is the face that he presents to his friends. Then we have the Suime that he presents to the citizens of this world, which is a bratty kid who is kicking and screaming about the fact that he shouldn't have been summoned there and he doesn't owe them anything because they've basically kidnapped him and his friends. And then finally, we have Suime the magician, who is sure of himself. Maybe that's probably putting it mildly. He is sure of himself. He is strong. He is powerful. He puts on a front of this incredible ego and, looking down on everybody who isn't at his level. And I kind of like the fact that we were playing with a character that, even though people would say, oh, when he said this, they got the impression this was truly who this boy was, you still don't know if that's true. Like, you still don't really know who this character is. Like, what is the ground that he occupies in this whole thing? Who is he really? Is he the guy that is at times merciless? Is he the guy that at times is kind and considerate? Or is he the guy that is really just truly pissed off and doesn't really give a damn about anybody except what he needs to do? It makes the character more interesting. Plus, I like the fact that he's not the hero. Nobody is expecting him to be the hero. Nobody is trying to force him to be the hero. In fact, the majority of people expect nothing of him. Even the whole thing with the magic, of course, we have magic in our world is what is revealed. The whole thing with Suime, of course, being a magician. And there's magic in this world. In this world, magic is out in the open. It's accepted. And in fact, it's revered in a lot of cases. And yet what's really funny is that even though that is the case, it is somewhat pedestrian compared to the magic of our world, or at least that's certainly the impression we get. I mean, the title kind of gives it away. Although there are a number of situations in this book that makes it seem that magic in this world is somehow tied to magic in our world. In fact, this is not a spoiler, this was just my gut instinct, my feeling on the whole thing. My kind of feeling on this was that the old magic of this world, like the hero summoning, that people know how to use, but they don't really understand how it functions, nor do they understand how to undo it or reverse it or what have you. I kind of feel like that's somehow tied to the fact that our world has magic that's so much more advanced. Like, I kind of feel that this is a story of two worlds and that how they interact with each other, which again, very interesting. The main heroine in this one, Felmenia, of course, is a court magician for this other world. And she, again, is a character that has a number of sort of levels. There is the very proud and serious girl that she presents to everybody else. At the same time, there is this somewhat klutzy and bubbly girl that you kind of feel that she's maybe repressed in a lot of ways because she is, by this world's standards, a very powerful magician and who has risen very quickly through the ranks. This makes her a slightly interesting character because, to me, at least, I thought it could be kind of cool to see her journey of reconciling these two images of herself. Not to mention the fact that, it is kind of a spoiler, but, the title, again, it gives it all away. I mean, obviously, Suime kind of proves to her that, she's not quite as hot with the whole magic thing as she thinks. Which has sort of an interesting effect, and probably is one of the slightly down parts about this book, is that Felmenia at that point kind of turns into a bit of a I'm in love with this OP guy kind of character that I was a little sad to see that happen. I think I would have preferred to see her a bit more of a independent character still. I kind of liked the more proud and determined character that we saw as opposed to the bumbling girl in love character that she kind of became around Suime. But at the same time, I kind of look at it and think to myself, well, maybe there's a good character's journey there, because she is obviously gifted with magic, but now that she has somebody that's challenging her and pushing her in ways that she would never have in this world, maybe there is an interesting journey here for this character. But it doesn't really happen in this book. Finally, I'm going to say exactly what it is that kind of bothered me about this book. And at the same time, as much as it bothered me about this volume, it could turn into a strength down the road. So again, I'm only reviewing this first book so far, so I can't say for sure. But here's my big problem with this book. The whole time that I was reading this book, I felt like there was a way better book that I should be reading. The world that this book takes place in this first volume, and again, it's confined mostly to just the castle that they're summoned in, so it's a very limited worldview perspective. And again, it's a very small cast. It's just the select characters in this kingdom that work in the castle. I couldn't escape the fact that the glimpses that we got of our world and how magic works in our world and why magic is hidden in our world, I couldn't help feeling the whole time I read this book that there was a way more interesting story and way more interesting world building to be done back in our world. This world that they're telling the story in this first volume is like so generic, by the numbers. We've got to fight the demon lord and the like villain. I mean, he's not a horrible villain, but really, like, he's kind of a bit one-dimensional. I just couldn't help but feel that there was such a more interesting story to be told back on our world. And I get that there is this drive by the author to try and do something a little different with isekai, to try and tell the story about a boy who wasn't summoned as a hero, a boy who isn't worried about defeating the demon lord. He just wants to get home. And he's kind of just decided that, well, my friend got invited as the hero, so let him have at the demons, and at least when he wins, hopefully I'll have figured out a way that we can go home. It is a little bit of a different view, and it is a little bit of a different take. But like I said, he just makes it sound like the backstory for Suime and what's going on in our world is so much more interesting that it bothered me the whole time. I'm like, I read a little bit about our world, and I'm like, I want to read that story. Can we just forget the isekai and just read that story? Like, yeah, I mean, like I said, this whole book is really about sort of, having multiple sides to things, right? Like, Suime, I've already talked about him. Felmenia, I've talked about her. Even, like I said, this whole worlds thing where we have a tale of two worlds. This one that we have the story taking place in, and the one that we are just hearing about sort of secondhand from Suime. And as much as that is interesting, it becomes problematic when the story that we're not really being told sounds way more interesting than the one that we are. Now again, I feel like this one has promise. I feel like there are places this could go, especially as the book ends and it looks like we're about to expand our worldview. We're going to get away from just the castle. Because I think once we get out into the world, then maybe things will get more interesting instead of just being boxed in these walls. At least that's my hope. So the magic in this other world is too far behind. To me, it is a first volume that has promise. It has a main character that could be interesting. He's already a bit interesting, but I could certainly see his character becoming even increasingly interesting as the story goes on. It has a female character that, even though I don't quite like the whole bumbling girl in love aspect of her, there are definitely places that she could have an interesting character arc if it's handled that way. And again, the whole magic thing and how our world and this world are tied together, that could be incredibly interesting. If it's done that way. So I'm kind of a mixed feeling on this series. I kind of feel like this first volume has a lot of promise, but it doesn't quite deliver on the goods that make you go, wow, this is going to be a great series. It fills you with all that hope that this could be a really great series. So I'm going to say that Volume 2 is kind of a must on this one to get a better feel of just where this series is going. J-Novel Club is killing me again with another series that they are pumping out a volume a month with this one. So, I mean, if you're someone who wants to be able to read the series quickly, you're in a lot of luck. If you're someone who's trying to read, 10 plus light novels a month and keep up with everything, you might be in trouble, such as myself, because I'm reviewing this book today and volume 2 has already come out. So I'm going to have to pick that one up and try and squeeze it into my schedule somewhere. But in any case, the magic in this other world is too far behind. Volume number 1, lots of promise, lots of things that have me think, if it goes this way, it could be really cool. But definitely one that I'd like to check out more before I kind of make any kind of final decisions on this series. If you've read the series, feel free to sound out in the comments. Please don't spoil anything, because I do want to read more of it. But, just kind of let me know. Are some of the things that I'm saying are interesting? Are they going to be kind of explored? Just yes or no. Don't tell me how or what. But are they? Or is this series just going to turn into another OP character kicking everybody's butt and being surrounded by a bunch of girls? I'm just kind of curious. So speaking of light novels with male characters surrounded by a whole bunch of girls, keeping up with my let's read a whole bunch of volume number 1s that I'm behind on, my next review is going to be on volume number 1 of Infinite Stratos. This one also being put out by J-Novel Club. In fact, it was just recently introduced. It was just recently... Oh my gosh, my words are just completely gone tonight. It was just recently announced that the next volume in this series that releases in Japan, I think that's volume 13. I think it's 13. 13 or 14, whichever it is, but will be the last one. So this series is coming to an end in Japan. We're now getting it in English, and that'll be my next review. So if you love light novels and you're brand new to the channel, you should subscribe. I do 2 to 3 reviews every week, as well as a weekly countdown of the top 10 best-selling light novels in Japan. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.